Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me to this platform with very distinguished individuals, some of whom I know and some of whom I share another platform with. Well, I was born in Nyazura, grew up over there, went to a mission school in Macheke, at Noe Mission. Thereafter, I went to Swaziland to Waterford School, which is one of these United World Colleges. Then came back to the University of Zimbabwe, where I did medicine. I worked in Blue Wave for a short time, then Harare. Then I went overseas to Scotland to specialize in ophthalmology, which is specializing in eyes. I was in the UK for 5 years, and I did some work in Scotland and in England. Then came back beginning of 1990 and started work at Parañato Hospital. And the rest is history. Yes, when I came back from training in the United Kingdom, eye care was very rudimentary, and there was no real training for eye specialists. So my first task was to build 𝙏𝙚𝙖𝙞 Eye Hospital to make it a proper referral center as well as a training center. So we had to look for equipment. Fortunately, I was able to work with Rotarians and Lion clubs. So I went to San Francisco and also LA and met Rotarians, spoke to them, and were able to raise some money. And I also got involved with an organization called Sea International Surgical Expeditions, based in Santa Barbara. The founder, Harry Brown, became a very close friend, and he came to visit Zimbabwe about 3 times. But through that, we got a lot of equipment, and other surgeons also coming to help us. With the Lions, I went to Holland, to Amsterdam and Utrecht, and we were able also to raise quite a lot of money for buying equipment to build up 𝙏𝙚𝙖𝙞 Eye Hospital. Thereafter, we started a postgraduate training program, so Zimbabwe could produce its own specialists. But in fact, the early program had doctors from other parts of Africa, even from Kenya, Tanzania, and Zambia, Ghana, Sudan, Malawi, and DRC Congo. At that time, ophthalmology was not popular with the Zimbabweans. So one of the first tasks to do was to market ophthalmology and make it attractive to Zimbabweans. So our first group of trainees was in 1992. We had 6 of them. Afterwards, of course, ophthalmology became very popular, and now it's many Zimbabweans. We then had to take ophthalmology to those who need eye care most, which are the rural people who often cannot even afford bus fare. So we studied the Eyes for Africa program, and would go almost every weekend, the last weekend of every month, to rural areas. So we went all over Zimbabwe. We went to Mutoko, Pfungwe, Karoi, Kariba, Rusape, Nyanga, Masvingo, Gokwe, and in Matabeleland as well, in Vic Falls, operating on patients. Also, we went to surrounding countries. We did operate in Zambia, in Ndola. We operated in Namibia and in Angola. And I also had an opportunity to go and operate with colleagues in Vietnam. We had colleagues who came from the States and from Australia. We all met in Vietnam. So this was just work to help those who are underprivileged. It then became clear that we also had to train optometrists. These are people who give glasses. So I worked on that when I was at UZ, but I had all the paperwork done, and then I left government service. And I was chairman of Bindura University for 10 years. So while I was there, I then decided that there should be a private-public partnership between our optical company called Optinova and Bindura University to start a school of optometry. This we did, and I'm pleased to say that the first graduates will be this coming year in 2022. So that was a contribution in terms of starting training of ophthalmologists at University of Zimbabwe, optometry training at Bindura University. Thereafter also University of Zimbabwe continued with the training at the Initiate for Optometry at University of Zimbabwe. And then of course the Eyes for Africa program. We even had golfers coming in to contribute towards the fundraising. Also, I must admit that I must acknowledge the banks within Zimbabwe who used to contribute. Banks like NMB, Trust. Some of them have disappeared now, but they did contribute greatly towards the Eyes for Africa program. The program for performing eye surgeries in rural areas is actually still going on, and is now being done by doctors within Perenyato Hospital. Dr. Kufa and Dr. Macheka are still carrying on the program. The cooperation we used to have from doctors from overseas, especially from the States and other countries, has really almost disappeared. Once Zimbabwe was under sanctions, some professionals became a bit more reluctant to come and assist us. That's what happened. The doctors I've worked with, especially those from the States, obviously we became personal friends, and our foray into Vietnam was just joining them to see what they were doing in Asia, to learn from what the Asians were doing. I think now we have enough local manpower to do these programs without necessarily having to invite doctors from outside. Well, it's so obvious that sanctions have affected our country, because we know when we want to join some even investment groups, once you say Zimbabwe, one is not allowed to join. So I think we have to accept that sanctions affect our country. However, when you talk about the health services, because we must remember Ian Smith was also under sanctions, but our health system was much better. I always talk about our mindset as a people, in the sense that we have so many resources, mineral, agricultural, and if we just thought a bit differently and behaved a bit differently, we should be able to have a very vibrant economy, which then, of course, would fund a much better health service, better equipment and better salaries and lots of drugs in hospitals. So that really would be my answer. It's more to do with our mindset and the way we think of ourselves and the way we think of others, and just really getting our act together. In the middle of 2020, I got stuck in India because of COVID lockdown. So stuck in my hotel, I started reading a lot, and that's when I came across blockchain technology. And the more I read about it and investigated, I realized this was the way the world was going to go. So I started investing in Bitcoin and then Ethereum. And I have to say that since June last year to now, Bitcoin went up about 10 times. And then from these major cryptocurrencies, I then learned about the other ones like Cardano, and then learned a lot about DeFi, which is decentralized finance, and dApps, the decentralized applications, and now non-fungible tokens. I feel that we, from our part of the world, are left behind. I followed one young guy, an artist, who did a beautiful painting and sold it on blockchain technology. And he was paid in Ether, but the equivalent of about $8,000, and he was very happy. But the buyer quickly put it back on the blockchain technology for 1.4 million. The good thing is that, of course, the young man will get 10% each time the painting is sold. The point I'm trying to make is that we have so much talent, young Zimbabweans who can come up with different applications, which can make them multimillionaires or billionaires overnight. And I'm one of those who has been advocating for an EFT, exchange traded fund for Bitcoin in the Victoria Falls stock market. You see countries like El Salvador have already legitimized the use of Bitcoin alongside the US dollar. Especially countries that have sanctions like Venezuela or Iran, they use the Bitcoin a lot. And I don't see why, as a young country, especially under sanctions like Zimbabwe, we should just go straight into blockchain technology, use Bitcoin and the other cryptocurrencies. So I'm very bullish on blockchain technology. It is true that currently Bitcoin is the king of all the cryptocurrencies. I think that stems from the history. If you remember the 2008-2009 financial crisis, when some of the big financial institutions were bailed out by the US government, all they did really was print, much like we did in Zimbabwe at some point. The effect is that the printed money went to the elites, who then put on the stock market, and those well connected. But it meant that the purchasing power of the US dollar was eroded. So whether it's one person or group of people, we really don't know. But the name is Satoshi Nakamoto, a Japanese name. He's supposed to be the one who wrote a white paper on blockchain technology, and the example was Bitcoin, which was a currency which cannot just be printed out of thin air, because the total ever should be just be 21 million, and it's mined by computers. And before the crackdown, most of the mining was done in China, but the Chinese government does not like Bitcoin and does not like cryptocurrencies, so a lot have moved out and they've come to the States. So when it started, people were very skeptical about Bitcoin, and in some instances it was being given free, and it was very low priced. I know some people bought it at $100 or $200. Now, you can imagine if you bought Bitcoin at $200 at that time, and today 60,000, how much money you'd have made. The thing about Bitcoin is that, and the blockchain technology, is that there is no control, either by banks, central banks, or governments. That's the beauty of it. And blockchain technology means that whatever transaction is made, it's all on the platform. Anybody can see it. There's no fraud. You can't change it. You can't do anything. And there's a public key and a private key. So you have your private key, which hopefully you share with your beloved in case something happens to you. But nobody has access to your account. Now, there are a lot of scammers out there. And I think in Zimbabwe, Bitcoin has a bad name because there are guys who came up and said they could get people to invest in Bitcoin, and these people took people's money and ran away. I think there's something in South Africa, if you are following, I think some youngsters disappeared with about 9 billion rands. So my advice is, please don't invest through some individuals. You go on the exchange, Coinbase or Kraken, there's quite a few of them, and you purchase directly on the exchange into your personal account where you hold the keys. Don't go through third parties. That's my advice. You need knowledge, and I always say knowledge is knowledge, and the knowledge is everywhere. If you look for it, you find it. So I'll say if one is not into cryptocurrencies, please do your research. And on YouTube, there's so much information. I mean, I'm learning every day of my life. So I think once you know what to do, and you can also get other people within your surroundings who know how to trade. So they teach you how to do it, but please do it yourself. I can tell you with confidence that Bitcoin is just going to blossom, because this very week, the U.S. Securities Exchange Commission has sanctioned the creation of an ETF. Okay, it's for Bitcoin futures, but still it means that now there is broad acceptance of Bitcoin. And once Wall Street goes into cryptocurrencies big time, the price is just going to rally. We think that from 60 by the end of the year, it will probably be 100 over 100. Some people even talk about more than 200,000. So which means there is a lot of fortune to be made in investing in Bitcoin. And Ethereum is another one. And if you do your homework, you learn a lot. There was Solana, which 12 months ago, it was $1. It went up to 200. So assume you bought a million Solana, you paid $1 million. It would have gone up within 12 months to 200 million. I mean, this is insane. We have to be part of this new world financial order. So the advice is, please learn a lot. Go on YouTube. There are a lot of free programs that you can subscribe to. Quite a number of them, actually, and I watch them every day. And once you learn, then get someone to teach you how to invest in the cryptocurrencies, how to get involved in DeFi, dApps, and how to get involved in NFTs, non-fungible tokens. I think that's a must, because we're talking about creating generational wealth. Besides, when you have these tokens, Bitcoin or Ethereum or the many others, you can stake them, which also means like investing, say, in a bank, and then you get dividends or interest. And some of the interest is extremely high. And once we have all this knowledge, I mean, we create wealth which even our children and our grandchildren will never finish. That's my strong advice to you. Totally agree. I think one should not just jump in and out. I think to realize the full gains, one should be in it for a long haul. I was looking at some of the small ones that maybe started up 0.001 or 0.01, and you find they've gone up 10 times minimum, some 20, some 50 times over about 12 months. So I think the longer one keeps the good cryptocurrency or the good tokens, the more one is going to realize. And I think what we realize, I can't compare to another investment which is currently available. I'm one of those people who believe that the black woman is the most beautiful woman walking on planet Earth with her natural attributes, with her natural hair, her natural skin, her lips, and her behinds. And I'll explain myself. I think the problem really is the fact that because maybe colonization, slavery, there is a belief among black women and men, I dare say, that Caucasians, the white woman is the gold standard of beauty. Her hair, her skin are the epitome of beauty. This is not true in my view. I saw black women beating up, scratching their scalps, and I thought, and slapping, and I thought, what's going on here? Because the other races don't do that. Then I was told, oh, it was because of the weave, because the weaves are itchy. So I had to inquire, what were these weaves? So I was told there was 100% human hair from the Indians, Brazilians, and Peruvians. And there was also fibers, synthetic fibers made by the Chinese and the Koreans. It was when I was in India, and I realized that they shave hair from dead people, because as you know, the Hindus, they make a fire when somebody's passed on, and they put the body and they burn everything. When they realize that the hair is sought after and it's quite expensive, now they shave their dead bodies before they burn them. That's the 100% which the black lady pays a lot of money for. And I also realized that at the temple where they have ceremonies, people have their hair shaved off as a sacrifice to their gods. So I watched the process, and I saw some very poor people, very dirty, some of them sick looking. I also saw some people who probably had cancer or TB. Their hair was being shaved off. Then I also discovered that when you throw away our demons, somebody has a mental illness, they'll take them to the temple, they have their hair shaven off, they sacrifice to the gods. We black people buy that hair is 100%. Then the hair, after being shaven off, was on the floor. Some people came to gather it, and they were cleaning it, and removing worms and removing lice. It was that day I decided there was something wrong that we black people were doing. In Taiwan, women who passed on, just before burial, the bodies are brought to a room where the scalp is completely shaven off of the hair, and then they go to the cemetery straight away. I was shown a huge warehouse with that hair, and I said, gentlemen, what are you doing with all this hair of people who've passed on? And they said, oh, my friend, this is big business. Black people are some of our biggest customers. They love this hair. We are making tons of money, billions of money, selling this hair to black people. On the way back on the plane, this was playing on my mind, and I thought to myself, what happened? Because when I grew up, there were no weaves. Who lied and convinced our beautiful women to say, oh, you're not so beautiful, you can be much more beautiful if you wear other people's hair. Then I've said to ladies, if we go to a restaurant, we buy a very expensive meal, and we find there is some human hair in the food, we'll stop immediately because it's contaminated. If I have a friend of mine and say, well, let's go and have our hair cut, and we go to the mother-in-law's place and we say, Mama Zala, can we please shave each other's hair in your kitchen? She'll say no. Do it outside, throw the hair outside. Don't even bring the hair into my house, because cut hair is dirt. It's China. What we black people are doing, for no other reason, because of our mentality, we are buying other people's dirt. China Yawangwanu. We put it on our heads. We walk around the world, showing the whole world what we think of ourselves and what we think of other races. I find that very painful. When I came back, I wrote an article in the Sunday Mail. I didn't put my name, but I expressed those views. And women went ballistic, and they said, well, this stupid man who's written this article obviously does not have any money to buy a wig or weave for his wife. If he has any at all, he's very stingy. He must just shut up. I went to the ladies that I work with, and I did explain to them that these trips had opened my eyes and my mind. So I'm delighted to say that all the ladies I work with, 41 of them, come to work in their natural hair. I mean, they look so beautiful, and they have so many different styles. I decided to advocate, to educate, try to enlighten our people. So I give lectures at universities, at churches, at schools, wherever I have an opportunity to share my knowledge. I do. And so I explained to the ladies that white people have that kind of hair that the black woman is so desirous of, because they come from a cold climate. Their hair and their skin is for the cold climate. The hair of the Caucasian is like, compare with sheep. We have sheep here in Africa. You go to Europe, they have a lot of wool. That wool is supposed to keep the sheep in Europe warm. What our women are doing is like a sheep in Africa saying, oh, I would like to look beautiful, so I would like to wear some wool to look beautiful. And you have to explain, say, no. The wool is not to look beautiful. The wool is meant to keep you warm. You don't need that, because here it's very hot. We need to explain that in very simple terms, because what happens with these weaves, I've seen women wear wigs for 4 weeks at a minimum, some 6 weeks, 2 months, 3 months. Even some university students, they buy the weave at the beginning of the semester, they wear it all the time. And I'm trying to explain that, you see, you have hair on your scalp, your armpits, your private parts. Whatever there is hair, there's sweating also. If we don't wash our armpits for 2 days, we start smelling sweat. So can you imagine keeping sweat covered on your scalp for 4 weeks, 2 months, 3 months, and you have dandruff forming? The dandruff is mixing with that sweat. Can you imagine the smell? And then the bacteria love that environment because it's warm, it's hot, and it's wet. So these bacteria get fat feeding on the dandruff and the old sweat, and they breed like crazy. All the ladies who wear these weaves for weeks or months, they have millions, billions, trillions of bacteria crowded in that scalp, and they start chewing on the scalp, and then they already start slapping and scratching their scalps. It's actually very sad. The good news is that we need just enlighten each other to emphasize a fact, which is that the black woman really is the most beautiful woman walking on planet Earth with the natural attributes. Let's go to the hair. You've seen that the Miss South Africa 2021 is bald. And the ladies from South Sudan, the models in Europe, who are very dark, tall, very bold with big earrings. They're strutting their thing on the catwalk in fashion centers in Europe. A black woman who's completely bold is like a goddess. No other race can look like that. If a white woman tries to do that, when you think, well, is she got cancer? Is she on chemotherapy? The Indians, same thing. The Chinese, or even worse. The Japanese, even worse. But the black woman is amazing. Number 2, please check out any black woman with short hair. She looks cute. She looks clean. She looks younger. Weaves and wigs always make the black woman look older. Number 3, check out any black woman with an afro. With an afro, she looks like she has a crown on her head. She looks majestic like a queen. Only a black lady can sport an afro, no other race. I sponsored my Chisamba show on the same topic, and one lady in the audience said, "Ndisi chet chinebvudza katarisa kudenga kuna Mwari." Only race whose hair defies gravity but looks towards the heavens, towards God. Number 4, when our ladies straighten their hair or they just pull it back, they can look like the Caucasians or the Asians just with their natural hair. Number 5, the black lady can plait her hair 1,000 different styles. There's almost a mystique about it. I've heard that during slavery, they could have a pattern which showed the escape route from a plantation. No other race can do that. Number 6, the black lady with locks looks very sexy. No other race can do that. So I've said to the ladies, look at the options that you have. Bold, short hair, afro, straight hair, plaited hair, locks. 6 options which are unique to the black lady. You abandon those and you go and buy other people's trash. You see, the black lady can look like the other races if she straightens her hair, but the other races can never, ever look like a black woman. The reason is very simple. The black woman is the original. She's the prototype. Mankind, it all began in Africa. And when you talk about the genes, the Eve gene, of all the races or all the creatures, organisms in the world, the black woman has the Eve gene, which comprises the whole genome of the human race. In other words, the black race, the black woman, is the mother of all mankind. That's why she has all these options which no other race has. But she doesn't know it. That's the tragedy. And the little black men are also ignorant. We need an education. The fibers, some say, oh yeah, but I buy fibers. The Chinese and the Koreans, and everyone knows the attitude of Chinese and most Asians towards black people. It's not a secret. But they figured us out. They said, whoa, these black people, they're prepared to spend so much money, $200, $500, $700, $1,000, buying the so-called 100% human hair from these Indians and Brazilians and Peruvians and other Asians. They are basically paying that kind of money for other people's trash. Those who pay these kind of monies are the ones who think they are very successful, they are the elite. The ones who stay behind cannot afford these figures, but they also want. It's not that black people want human hair. No, it's they want the look, to look Caucasian, to look Asian. Therefore, let's make some fibers, just silly fibers that can just mimic the hair of Caucasians and Asians. These black people will buy. So surely they did. They make these fibers so cheap that even the maid or the girl on the marketplace selling her tomatoes and onions can also wear a wig and weave to achieve that Caucasian or Asian look. And that's what happened. When I walk into town and I see this, I get depressed. We need to share with our black ladies and some men too. Now, when it comes to the skin, We black people don't realize we have the best skin in the world, the melanin, the pigment. We can survive anywhere in any climate. We all know that black women don't wrinkle easily. I mean, I've got patients who are in their 80s, black women, and they've got beautiful skin. Caucasians, early 40s, they wrinkle. Then they use anti-wrinkling cream, anti-aging cream, they use Botox, they have plastic surgery. Black women don't need it. Secondly, because the Caucasians don't have pigment, when they are exposed to our sun, they get skin cancers. And we see these patients with skin cancers. It's actually very sad. Black women don't have skin cancers. That's why albinos also have skin cancers. They have no pigment. What do? We bleach our skins to get rid of the pigment. The display of ignorance and just like self-loath is sad. And I hope those who are listening to what we are saying right now, please pick up the message and spread the message. Our ladies have the most beautiful hair, the most beautiful skin. I go to the lips. You know, our ladies have thick lips, fulsome, luscious, very sexy. Every race envies the lips that the black lady has. I've seen that even in Hollywood and some places, Caucasian ladies inject Botox into their lips to make them thick, to mimic the lips of the black woman. In Brazil, Colombia, there are a lot of surgeons making lots of money doing bum enhancement surgery, Botox implants. The black woman has them naturally. I hope I've convinced some of you that we have the most beautiful women on planet Earth. In fact, over civilizations, it was well known that the black woman is the most beautiful woman. And in Victorian times, they even wore skirts where they appeared like they had bums. The Greeks named 2 star constellations after the black woman. We don't need to enrich the Indians or the Chinese buying either their trash or these fibers. People who actually look down on black people. We don't have to. Our women are the most beautiful. And this stretches even to everything, the Olympics. Some of you might know that they looked at a series of DNA and they found that the more series of DNA creatures have, the more intellectually sophisticated, culturally sophisticated they are, and even spiritual development. And they found that the orangutan has 3 DNA series. The apes have 4. The chimpanzee, which is very nearest to the human being, has 5. And the rest of the human race, the Caucasians, the Asians, they've got 6 series of DNA. When they came to black people, we have 9. We need to understand that. That's why you see, when we were allowed to participate in the Olympics in 1932, we took over. Look at 100 meters, 200 meters, 400 meters, 5,000 meters, boxing, basketball, all these sports. We need to convince ourselves, especially our children. You know, when I was asked to be a guest speaker at NASH, National Association of Secondary School Headmasters and Headmistresses, I told them, the headmistresses, headmasters, including all of us adults, we have an awesome responsibility to tell the black child that there's nothing wrong with your hair. There's nothing wrong with your skin. Nature or God did not make a mistake on you. In fact, you're given the best hair, the best skin of all the races. And these are facts. Our children, nobody tells them that. They don't know that. I told the headmistresses there because virtually, I think 99.9% of them had wigs on or weaves on. And I said, we have headmistresses here who are teachers, who are mothers. You're in education, you know more than I do, that every child looks up to the mother, looks up to the teacher, looks up to the headmistress or the auntie. The child has natural hair, but all these other people, the mother, the teacher, they have these weaves. The child thinks in own little mind, my hair does not look like my mom's hair or my teacher's or my auntie's hair, my headmistress. There must be something wrong with me. You see, by doing this, we are damaging the confidence of the black child early on. The white child, the Indian child, the Chinese child, the Japanese, they don't have that problem. That's why they can think development, innovation much earlier on. Our kids are struggling just with their looks, their hair, their skin. They think it's not right. That's why I'm very passionate about this topic. We don't have to buy those things or wear those things. We do not have to bleach our skins. One of the things that I do every day of my life, wherever I am, in the shops, whether I'm on a plane, in a hotel, or I'm in another place, Jamaica or the States or wherever, when I meet a lady with natural hair, I always say to them, if I have an opportunity to speak to them, say, excuse me, lady, I have to tell you that you look so beautiful, so stunning with your natural hair. You see, lady, I'm a naturalist, and I absolutely adore, respect, and truly appreciate natural hair. When you have natural hair, like you have, it shows you have confidence within yourself, confidence in who you are. You have inner beauty and outer beauty. You see, lady, natural hair is elegant. Natural hair is classy, it's chic. It's a true sign of real sophistication. I hope you keep it up, and I hope you share with your friends. Because there is no sophistication to wear what other people would throw in the dustbin. You put it on your head, and you masquerade around the world with other people's trash. The whole world can see you for who you are. Secondly, there is absolutely no sophistication in purchasing dead people's hair, because you don't know where it comes from. You just buy, put it on your head, and walk around the world with dead people's hair, and you go to bed with dead people's hair. Thirdly, there is no sophistication in purchasing fibers just to mimic other races, and those very races are laughing at you. I speak to young people and senior people too, to say, please, let's compliment a lady with natural hair each time we meet her. Our ladies need compliments from us. They need that conviction from us. They need to get that confidence from us. Thank you. Well, when it comes to bleaching, as I mentioned, there is no other woman on earth who's got the most beautiful skin better than a black woman. The melanin, the pigment, makes the skin of the black person uncomparable to any other race. The pigment is protection, and that is why a pigmented person, a black person, can survive in any climate. First, you find Caucasian women, they wrinkle in the early 40s, and black women, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, they still have beautiful skin because of pigment. Secondly, Caucasians, when they are exposed to our sun, they develop skin cancers, and black women don't. That's why albinos develop skin cancers, because they don't have the protection of the pigment. So for someone to actually bleach, first of all, they're damaging their skin, and secondly, they become prone to even develop skin cancers. And when I grew up, people used to apply skin lightening creams like Ambi, and today you can see the results. They've got terrible pigmentation, permanent, on their skins, and they look horrible, but there's nothing they can do now. I was sitting next to a lady on a flight from Addis Ababa to Washington, and she works for the AU, and she was high up in the government of Burkina Faso. And she told me that in West Africa, if a lady does not have a weave, if she has not bleached her skin, she's considered unattractive. She's a nobody. And so when she cut her hair, everybody was up in arms while she was doing that. So when I met her, we were sitting next to each other, I complimented on her natural looks. And she said to me, I was the very first man ever to compliment her on her natural hair and skin. She told me something very sad. She said that in West Africa, there are women, when they are pregnant, they take those tablets to bleach their skin so that they give birth to a white-looking baby, because everybody's proud to show around a white-looking baby. And soon after delivery, the babies have these skin lightening lotions applied on them so they stay white. I go back to what I always say, that it's all about mindset. We have to change this mindset where we think other people are better than us, when in fact we're better than every other race in a lot of ways. I just have to emphasize, as I've said before, from a genetic point of view, the black woman has the best genes, and she's the mother of all races. She's the original. Because of ignorance, you have the original trying to copy the copy, and that is sad. I'm extremely passionate about the arts. I've been collecting since the early 90s, and it really started by just going to art exhibitions. So I bought paintings, and then I got into sculptures, and I took an interest in collecting the first generation of sculptors, people like Nicholas Mkomberanwa, Henry Munyaradzi, Brad Matemera, Sylvester Mbai. And now, as you can see from my collection, I collect a lot of Dominic Benura, who is at the moment the foremost internationally renowned sculptor from Zimbabwe. So maybe I started as a hobby, but it's developed into a passion, and only later I realized it's a huge investment, in the sense that if you look, and I'll send you that, Portia Roera, a painting at an auction in London, they were estimating that they would probably raise between 40 and 60,000 pounds. But in fact, it was sold for 163,000 pounds, 800. So art is an investment. And now with non-fungible tokens, one can make a hell of money from art. But for me, I have a gallery in my own home, what I call a Shona gallery, with paintings of people like David Chinyama and others. And in the garden, it's littered with sculptures. And every sculpture that I have has a story. And I'm very happy to show people who come to visit and tell them the stories about my art collection. So this is something I really enjoy, and I like to share with my friends. Yes, I'm the current patron of the Zimbabwe jazz community. I've had the privilege to get involved in jazz in our country, and also to know the musicians. We have been arranging jazz festivals, especially the Alliance Francaise. But COVID obviously put a stop to what we used to do. So I was at the Alliance just the other night, and we are hoping to resume those jazz concerts and festivals with Philbert Maroa and others. Some of the festivals we have, like in Vic Falls, we also have, even in Harare, we've had foreign musicians coming over, especially from South Africa. I got to know Hugh Masekela very well, and he visited my home, and we also shared the passion about natural hair. We hope now, if this COVID menace disappears, we can start concerts again. But the musicians themselves are very talented, and because of my love of music and jazz and dancing, I'm currently also learning how to play the piano and the saxophone. Scuba diving is one of the most exciting sports I ever discovered. It all started when I went to visit a friend of mine, an ophthalmologist from Seychelles. We met while I was training in Scotland. So I went to visit the Seychelles for the first time, and I saw some French people who were wearing black, these black wetsuits, plus they had those tanks on their back. So I inquired what it was all about. So I heard it was scuba diving. So I took an interest, went to the office. They told me all about it. I enrolled. I wanted to learn. And I was with my son, who was about, I think, 12 years old at that time. And then we took lessons in the pool initially. And then we went for a shallow dive, what they call a resort dive. And I was struggling to because you have to balance the pressures between the outside water and inside. So the ears have a problem because you'll have a lot of ear pain and headache if you don't equalize the pressure inside your body and outside your body. So I had that problem my first dive, and I in fact perforated my eardrum. So I came back, but I felt challenged. So I went back to the Seychelles next year, and I did the full course. And then I got certified. And a year later, I went to the Maldives, and I did the advanced course, where I can even dive at night. And thereafter, the bug got into me. I just wanted to explore more and more of the sea. So I was fortunate to dive in places like the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. I did Sri Lanka, Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt, Eilat in Israel, Mauritius a few times, and then the Mozambican coast, Kirimbosh Islands, Mejumba Island, and also Vilankulos in South Africa, Sodwana, which is between Maputo and Durban. Then I've done Jamaica, also Cuba, and Mexico, Puerto Vallarta, Hawaii, and my most favorite is the Bahamas, where you actually dive with the sharks around you. What does that mean to me? I enjoyed it. It's like being taken to another planet. It's a completely different environment. Safety, you can die scuba diving if you're not careful, because, well, you're well trained, and you also have your meters to check how deep you are, how much air is left in the tank, and you have to keep on checking all these things. And then there are computers. They so have a computer that can tell us most of the information that we need. And of course, when you come up very, very slowly, and you take a 5-minute break when you're about 3 meters from the surface. Danger, well, I've dealt with sharks, and so it's like having a game walk with a guide in Wange National Park or some of these game parks. You have to be careful, you have to behave, you don't make a noise. the same thing. You're taught precautions, and accidents can happen, but they're very, very rare. And if you're well trained and you have common sense, you should be quite safe. So this is a sport I highly recommend to everybody who's adventurous. The pictures that you just showed to the group, I was missing traveling and diving so much that a few weeks ago I went to Dubai and I was diving in the aquarium there. They have some stingrays and also some sharks. No, but that's not as exciting as being out in the open sea. It's a sport I highly recommend.
Thanks, Tendai. Well, as you asked the question, I was just smiling and laughing at, because I don't think that I'm qualified. You know, these issues like that are very personal. I know, as you say, yes, Bezos is divorced. Bill Gates is divorced. I know George Soros is not married. He's in relationships but not married. I don't think. I think Steve Jobs also. He didn't have a successful. He didn't have a wife. Although he had a daughter, and things didn't ever work out socially for him. So I'm not sure that one can give it a blanket answer. My observation, though, is, well, I'll tell you this story. I was in Vic Falls, and I was with the Sansoles. You might remember Washington Sansole was a lawyer, and he has a daughter, Palesa, who's a lawyer also. And she invited me to go whitewater rafting in the falls. And I said to her, well, Palesa, you know, this whitewater rafting is very rough. You can capsize and you can knock your head on a rock. Can you guarantee that I'll be safe? And she looked at me and she said, Solomon, I have to tell you that in this world, you come alone, and when you live alone. So there are no guarantees. I cannot guarantee you that. Needless to say, I didn't go whitewater rafting with her. I have a lot of friends. In fact, one friend of mine who's a professor in London, he's the guy who was the first head boy of the school I went to. He's on his third marriage. And he said to me, the first one was also a medical specialist and they divorced. And the second one was a highly specialized radiologist from Hong Kong. And the parents were against her, but she died. And then the third one, now he's the third one, much younger than him, who's also a specialist. And when the second one died, and I had gone to his wedding in Cape Town, I said, are you going to marry again? And he said, well, you know, I cannot live without a wife. I can't. Now, there's another guy who's Jewish, extremely wealthy. He was the president of the immigration lawyers. In fact, my father used to work for his father, but we're still very close. He never got married. And he said he saw his parents quarreling and shouting at each other, and he decided from a young age he would never get married. But he's very successful. He's very wealthy. He has lots of land and horses and all that. That was so that's what he decided to do with his life. So it's difficult to answer for everybody. But I also know people who are in marriages who happen to be very, very unhappy. They kind of just live together. And when you speak to, especially the wives, they complain so much about the husbands, and I have to remind them sometimes, you know what, this guy you are talking about is my friend, so please, don't give me any more of this. Ultimately, I think one has to find their own niche, as it were, what you're comfortable with. You can't be everything to everybody, and you also can't think that you the repository of what society should be like, I know I've got Indian friends that go to India a lot, and when you hear from Indian women how they're treated by their husbands, stories are awful. Outside they look really, successful, but the men treat, as I said, even when they make love or sex, apparently for the husbands, it's like ablution, it's like going to the toilet. They don't care how the women feel and so on. And this is almost like a culture. And the Arabs are another story. And a lot of people, even in Europe, people have mistresses. When Bill Clinton did what he did, it's not unusual. This happens. So I wouldn't like to judge anybody, condemn anybody, or say it should be like this, because I don't know. People they know what they go through. And sometimes I've noticed that if the mind is not clear, even development or moving forward or even investments, people can't make them, because if they have a problem in their lives, maybe with their spouse, that occupies their space mentally. They can't think of anything else. They just walk around like a zombie. But they might just stay in there for the sake of society. So in short, I don't think I'm qualified to answer your question. There's a question from Padi Matekwe on Bitcoins and people charging 10%. It's a very good question. I've gone through the same thing. You see, because of sanctions, we cannot join the exchanges like Coinbase or Binance. I think the only one we can join is Kraken. As a result, we have to go through these middlemen, whom quite honestly I don't like, but I've had to use them because we are Zimbabwean. And that's a problem. You talk about the attitude of the Reserve Bank and our government. Yeah, I think that's very unfortunate. And I was on an interview because I used to be very active on the local stock market. So they interviewed me about investments. And in the end, I told them exactly this, that, we need financial literacy for our children right from the beginning, and also for the adults. But more importantly, we need to catch up with the rest of the world. We cannot isolate ourselves. And blockchain technology is the way to go. And if we don't join in now, it'll be just sad for us. So I think we need, and I did ask the Securities Exchange Commission to go to the Reserve Bank, to go to the Minister of Finance, to change our attitude towards cryptocurrencies. And I've noticed that recently Professor Mthuli was in Dubai, and he said some very positive words about cryptocurrencies and the possibility of starting a Bitcoin ETF at Victoria Falls Stock Exchange. I don't know who he's going to do that with, because I was in partnership with a Zimbabwean solicitor in London who's actually working for the Treasury in the UK, who's very knowledgeable on cryptocurrencies, and we wanted to start an ETF in Victoria Falls. So maybe the idea has been started by somebody else as well. I don't know, but they knew that we had this idea. Hopefully, things are going to change for the better. But sometimes we're a little slow. I hope we move faster. The possibility of our economy being sabotaged by the blockchain technology, the answer is no. You see, with blockchain technology, everything is transparent to everybody. Any transaction you do, the whole world knows. And so if somebody was going to do something fraudulent, they wouldn't be able to. If they do, it will show everywhere, and they'll be caught. A country like ours, in my view, where you have sanctions, the only way to get out of it or to be independent of it is to actually adopt blockchain technology as quickly as possible, because then your currency is not open to manipulation by bigger forces, and the beauty of it all is that the powerful forces don't have control over blockchain technology, and that's why it's going to succeed. I know I have met people here in Zimbabwe, even some on this platform, who don't believe in it. They think there is no intrinsic value in the Bitcoin. But the question is, where is the intrinsic value in the US dollar? Because at the Bretton Woods after the Second World War, they assigned the US dollar to the international reserve currency. But at that time, it was pegged to the gold. But when Nixon, because they started these wars, was expensive, they couldn't afford it. They decoupled the US dollar from gold, and after that, it's just been fiat. I mean, they just print it. I mean, now they're printing like there's no tomorrow. So the purchasing power of the US dollar has been eroding. And now I think they say it's been eroded by almost like 90%. So where's the intrinsic value? That's really the argument I'll put across to those who don't believe in blockchain technology, who don't believe in Bitcoin. Remember also the history of money. People used to use beads and ndarama. It just what value you assign to whatever commodity it is currency. A society can do that. And I think when they had beads in West Africa, the Europeans discovered how to make these beads, and they were coming with counterfeit beads. And then the West Africans realized, no, these are not the real beads. So money, it just, as I said, depends what value you assign to it. So for those who think the US dollar is the thing, I mean, it's just maybe a stronger version of Zim dollar in a way. I don't know. People have to decide for themselves. I believe in blockchain technology. Yes, issue of manufacturing. I agree. I love that question because this is the answer for us, manufacturing. I think some of you might have seen that clip of a certain gentleman who was speaking to a think tank in Europe. I think it was in The Hague or somewhere there. And he was saying that it's the policy to keep sub-Saharan Africa underdeveloped because it has to remain a source of cheap raw materials whose price, of course, they can determine. And he said, because if that changes, the living standards of Europe, of North America, even Asia will come down. And he said, the only way you come out of poverty is to manufacture. In short, I think what we ought to do, we have the lithium, and everybody knows, Tesla and all these companies, they want the electric battery, and they need lithium for that. So imagine we have the joint ventures to mine lithium, but we also have joint ventures to manufacture the batteries, lithium batteries, so that only finished batteries are exported from Zimbabwe. So we could produce the best batteries in the world from Zimbabwe. That will lift us up immediately. And that applies to chrome products. Steel, I think there's a shortage of steel now in the world. And remember, we used to have Zisco steel. And we manufacture all these things. So spectacles, yes, it's something actually we've been looking at. We are looking at manufacturing of frames and manufacturing of the plastic lenses. So we're doing a homework right now.